use this classic gel flux. And there are several different kinds of flux, but I found that this is my favorite. So I just use my finger and then wipe it off with a rag that I have some Windex on. And I do this and I go around the edges. And you want to make total care that you get each and every section coated with the flux, because flux is your friend and you need it on every square inch of your piece or your solder will not adhere. So then I just wipe it off with my rag that I have a little bit of Windex on. And literally I've made at least 10,000 pieces and I have put flux all over my hands and I am fine. So I think you will be too. So Johnny would like to have 2 pieces of jump rings on hers because she's going to put her beads through the top and she wants to have 2 jump rings. So we are going to do that. And I like to put the jump rings on with this little type of implement, and I got it in a crafting store, scrapbooking store, and it's just like a little clip type thing. And they're split rings, and I put the split on the bottom, and I put the dip it in your flux, and this little white bar that looks like ivory soap is called Sal Almanac, and you need Sal Almanac because it replaces the tin on your tip of your soldering gun. And I never knew this before, and all of a sudden one day I was soldering and my tip was just had a hole in it, and I'm like, what is going on? Well, the tip was gone because I had used it so much that I had literally eroded a hole in my tip. And I found out from Karen that I had ruined the tip because using it on the foil tape had ruined the tip. So when you solder, you need to replace the tin on your tip, and you do so by making a little reservoir in your Sal Almanac bar. And I use the tip of scissors or pliers, and I groove it out and make some powder with the Sal Almanac. And I didn't see this for a long time, and it makes a huge difference, let me tell you. And you take a little bead of solder and put it in that reservoir, and you take the tip and roll it around in your bead of solder, and then you dip your jump ring into your flux, and then you get your solder on your tip, and you apply your jump ring, and you hold a slight pressure until you'll see a little tiny resistance come back, and I hope the camera will pick it up, but it'll be a tiny little resistance come back, and it'll be ever so slight of a little discoloration in the solder, and it'll almost be like a dry mark, and it won't be as shiny as the silver solder. And I call it resistance. I don't know if that's really the proper term, but it looks like it resists back. That's the way I describe it. But it'll be very shiny, and then there'll be a discoloration that it'll almost pools back, and it's dingier than the silver solder. And that's when I notice, and that's when I say that the solder is dry enough that you can take these little black things off, and your jump ring will be sturdy enough that it won't fall off. and it's almost like there's a little spot here. You can't really see it, but there's almost a little spot that comes, and that's how I know it's dry enough that it won't come off or it won't slip down. Your solder's dry enough. The solder that I prefer the most, it's called Silver Gleam, and I use this above all else. It has the highest level of sterling silver in it. It's jewelry grade quality. That's the way I'll describe it. It's the shiniest silver. I guess that's why they call it Silver Gleam. I think it's the best for jewelry, and it gives you the nicest silver looking quality, I think, and I like to use it for jewelry. I think it's the prettiest. And probably at this time I would turn it around, and since she's going to have two, I would probably just go ahead and run another line across. So that we can put the other jump ring on. And always make sure you put everything in your flux.
Oh, cool. So your hand got hot?
No. You can do it like this too. And just, you run it like that. And that would work too. You just have to play around with it and figure out how you like it.
Yeah.
I like to let it kind of just sit for a while. And so I just wipe it with the Windex soaked little cloth and get all the little black residue and stuff off before it hardens and dries.